So an update here, you might think that we're just getting to the start of the matchup if you just tuned in. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We had to take the broadcast down, and players are actually looking at deck lists as they sideboard for game number 2. So we have Taylor Spain here on Is It Affinity against Andrew Vorel on a 4-color Blink. This is an Omnath Locus of Creation deck, so 4-color and not black. We look to see Andrew Vorel has won the first game. We got a little bit of what happened there. We saw a Solitude break up kind of an awkward Pinnacle Emissary draw, and that's when we had to go back, and it looks like everything continued to go well for Vorel from there.
Right, and if you actually look at the boogie board, the life totals on the bottom left on Andrew's side, it actually tells the story of what happened in that game in a fairly pronounced way. You get up to 33 with Omnath pretty consistently and easily. We also see life going down in multiples of 4 on Spain's side. Again, I think I know who did that.
It's great detective work, Carmen.
Scene of the crime. I have reconstructed the whole thing. This is Carm's eidetic memory.
Well, now let's do a bit of looking into the future. Maybe make some predictions about the rest of the match as players looking at the sideboard. Looks like maybe Taylor Spain could use some help on the Is It Affinity side of things. What do you think he might be reaching for here?
So looking at the deck list sheets in front of me, I'm seeing a couple of copies of Imri, Lurker of the Lock in the sideboard. That's something that I'd be pretty excited to bring in here. I don't think there is a ton else to be that excited about. I think the big thing you need to be worried about in general is Wrath of the Skies, that I think that card is so high impact we might end up seeing Taylor reach for some of those just to try and be able to check them post-board. Spider Sense, kind of an interesting card in a lot of ways, where this is a new one out of the new Spider-Man set, where because it has web slinging, whenever you use something like, say, a Springleaf Drum, you can actually make a tapped creature or an untapped creature become tapped to pick it up with web slinging. So even if you end up in some sort of counterfight or stack interaction or something like that, you can save a creature from a removal spell as a cost in a way that is really hard to interact with.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to utilize that card for sure.
And Force of Negation is probably the last card I'm looking at that I'm interested in thinking about. Whenever you're seeing the opponent try an Eternal Witness loop their highest impact spells a bunch, the Exile clause on that is quite relevant.
You mentioned Wrath of the Skies being a concerning card. It's a sorcery. Force of Negation, of course, plays really well there. Do apologize, the sideboards on screen here are not correct. Carmen mentioned we're looking at some paper deck lists in front of us. We're getting the kinks out. We're starting the weekend here. But over on Andrew Vorel's side of things, I suppose I will read the sideboard here. He has 4 Consigned to Memories, 4 White Orchid Phantom, 3 Mystical Dispute, 3 Surgical Extraction, another Wrath of the Skies. So that stands out as an option. Anything else here you like?
So honestly, I do like White Orchid Phantom in this matchup. It's able to block, which
exciting, thrilling.
Most creatures capable of moving to the declare block step, of course. But it is quite nice at blocking a bunch of the robots that we see Pinnacle Emissary produce. It also can block something like an Ornithopter holding a cranial plating. And then also there are a bunch of lands that you are happy to attack in Urza's Saga. So really I think we're going to see Andrew move away from some of these planeswalkers that are a little bit harder to defend in the first game. There are 3 Teferi Time Raveler, 3 Wrenn and 6 that I'm not sure going to be able to kind of hold up their end of the bargain, as well as 4 stock-ups that are for the grindy matchup a little bit more than they are for this one, and just try and play to the table a little bit more adequately.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I like that White Orchid Phantom aspect there. And you also have Quantum Riddler, which is a little bit more efficient and then can be a more impactful game as things bridge to the late game there for Vorel. Quantum Riddler, huge card from one of Magic's most recent expansions, Edge of Eternities. That's something that we have on sale. You can order that now on StarCityGames.com. We're seeing that on both sides of the matchup here.
Right, we're seeing Pinnacle Emissary on the Affinity side, Quantum Riddler on the Blink side, really just having a huge impact across all of Magic.
Really carving out its own space. You can order that now at StarCityGames.com/MTG-EOE. Players looking at some openers for game number 2. Looks like Spain happy on 7. Vorel taking a mulligan.
It's funny, this is almost one where going into the match, if you go, who do you think's keeping a little bit more? Who do you think's mulling a little bit more? Affinity, a lot of times, you kind of touched on this going into the match, you are pressed in a little bit into keeping some more awkward 7s because you do just need a lot of cards to get off the ground. And on the other side, you have Andrew just saying, okay, I have a couple of cards that will more or less solo you. In Wrath of the Skies, for example, is really good against Urza Saga, Mox Opal, making a bunch of 0 mana tokens, etc. But you're willing to mulligan for it. As long as you have 2 lands that card, you feel like you're going to get to play a game, which is going to mean that you're not going to keep as many, say, medium hands of, well, this has lands and spells, I might as well try and play.
Makes sense, as Vorel does keep on 6. Spain will start us off. This time there's a land. Shivan Reef is going to warp that Pinnacle Emissary. Mox Opal will produce a Robot.
And this is one of the strengths of Emissary, is it is Metalcraft with just a Mox Opal.
Yes, yeah, it gets you going really easily. Here's Memnite for a second robot. Mox Opal online, and here's Thoughtcast. 2 more cards, please.
Turn 1 Thoughtcast just feels so dirty every time.
Backup Mox Opal, robot number 3.
New and improved Legend Rule.
And Kappa Cannoneer on the first turn of the game. My word.
All right. Hello, and I cannot stress this enough. Good luck.
Something you will know if you're looking at the Modern Horizons 3 printing a Kappa Cannoneer. It, of course, puts a counter on itself when it enters. And here is a robot token as well. Emissary is going to go to exile as we head back to Vorel.
It's a surprise tool for later.
Yes. At least 2 mana already there for Spain. Misty Rainforest, go!
I'm sorry. I don't know what I thought would happen, but
it's a little lopsided, I think, is what your reaction is indicating.
Anybody's game situation.
So we head back to Spain. 4 robots, a Memnite, a Kappa Cannoneer, a Springleaf Drum. That's going to grow the Cappaneer.
That's what we call it.
That's what I called it, apparently. It was not intentional.
We like to have fun.
Here's Thought Monitor. I'm going to see a fetch for Vorel in response. Perhaps a Mystical Dispute?
That sounds pretty good to me.
It sounds necessary to me.
Yeah, playing cards at this point is just kind of the first box that has to get checked. This is a ton of pressure.
Here's Hallowed Fountain. There is Mystical Dispute. Thought Monitor countered. You wonder, though, is the damage already done? As here comes the squad. 6 off the Cannoneer itself, 4 robots to 10. Memnite, 11.
Well, damage is not already done in the declare attack step, but...
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love to be fact-checked.
Well, you have the perfect partner in the booth.
And speaking of checking facts, that's going to be game number 2 for Taylor Spain.
And honestly, that's kind of the allure of this Affinity deck, is you do just have these huge pop-off draws where you say, okay, well, welcome to the first turn. What can you do about 10 power and a Ward 4 creature? Good luck.
That Ward 4, Kappa Cannoneer is already so much rate. It's for closing games unambiguously.
Hello, this is my deck. This is the business end.
Players, they have the opportunity to reconsider sideboards, but looks like some shuffling on both sides here. But we do have the correct sideboards on screen now, so you can take some time to review that. And for Spain, the actions there, just a lot of game 1 stuff just worked better in the second game.
Right, but saying hitting a land drop sounds a little reductive, but we saw just how hard that Vorel was able to basically just cold Spain's entire draw by having that early Solitude Ephemerate, specifically on the play. The play draw dynamic is massive in this matchup. Imagine last game, for example, if Vorel had been able to Mystical Dispute the Pinnacle Emissary.
Yeah, the Emissary or the Cannoneer.
Totally different game.
Yes. Yeah, the Mystical Dispute on the Thought Monitor, that's fine. The game had just gotten away from him too much at that point.
You play your cards as they're dealt,
Right. Yeah, what could you possibly do about it? We appreciate everybody at home joining us here for coverage of the Regional Championship here at SCGCon Houston. There happens to be another such event coming up just next month. We'll be hosting another Regional Championship, once again in the modern format. That's going to be in Vegas. So for SCGCon Las Vegas, that's going to be November 21st to the 23rd. You can check us out on social media, hashtag SCGCon Vegas. Find the details if you're interested in attending, playing the main event, checking out the side events. Now, Carmen's a big side event fan.
That's true.
Find those details at starcitygames.com/SCGCon.
And you touched on this being the back half of the Modern Regional Championship rounds, right? I had the privilege of covering both halves of the first Modern RC rounds earlier this year, and watching the metagame adapt from one event to the other was fascinating. And even this weekend, we're seeing adaptations in Modern from the Pro Tour just a couple of weeks ago. So what's happening this weekend is not necessarily what is going to be happening that weekend, it just informs it.
Yes. We're seeing some decks, 3 different flavors of Blink already. So how are we constructing that deck? We've been talking about the Is It Affinity deck. Is this the evolution of the deck? Are we still just figuring out the shell? A lot to explore in the Modern format. We'll know a lot more at the end of this weekend too, when we see what the winning decks are.
All right, well, speaking of Vegas, both players got 7s.
Perfect. See what kind of game we see. Both players have a land to start things off. Wooded Foothill, or Windswept Heath, excuse me, for Vorel, Spiral of Canal, Springleaf Drum, so not the most explosive start for Spain.
And this is one where, if there were an adaptation in sideboarding, I might even expect to see Spain lean a little bit less into cards like Memnite early on. Just something where you really don't want to have these cards that are so low impact as a top deck against a deck like this, and also really weak to a lot of cards in the space of Wrath of the Skies. You kind of want to play a little bit more of an inevitability game, which is hard, but whenever you have something like Kappa Cannoneer, for example, or in all of these cards that are just a threat that can solo you, it is something that you do have draws that facilitate that.
Makes sense to me. We see Vorel is going to fetch up Elegant Parlor. Surveils keeps a card. Here's Meticulous Archive.
I think that's Hedge Maze.
You're right. Yes, Hedge Mage.
All 4 colors.
We're online. That one's going to mill over Orum's Chant.
Orum's Chant's kicked mode really strong in this matchup, actually.
Something of a time walk. Combat is how Spain intends to close the game, I believe is largely what you're alluding to here.
Right, there are a couple of Galvanic Blasts in the sideboard, but other than that, it basically is trying to win by declaring an attack.
Urza's Saga, pretty significant as land number 2 there for Spain. Also deploys a Mox Opal. No Metalcraft just yet. So we head over to Vorel. We'll shock in the Steam Vents, and here's a stock up. And there is the Spider Sense. You mentioned that coming off of the sideboard. Some tricky play. Pretty basic negate here, and it does the trick.
It's not bad.
Yes. Saga goes to chapter number 2. Here's Spiral of Canal is land number 3. So now the construct modes are at the ready. We're on chapter 2 for Spain.
And this is Spain really just only deploying one threat at a time and saying, okay, if you have Wrath of the Skies, I'm going to give you as little as possible for it.
Here is the activation on the Saga, just a fetch land for Vorel's turn. 3/3 construct is deployed. Go back to Spain. Draws for turn. Urza Saga is going to go to chapter 3.
Andrew Vorel reaching over to get a look at that Spider Sense. Construct to the table. Spain grabs the library.
So construct number 2. They are 4/4s. They will be 5/5 shortly as Spain finds the 1 or 0 off of the Urza Saga.
Lava Spur Boots could be a thing that helps apply a lot of pressure from this position.
Absolutely. You mentioned that Spain's plan and the way he's playing it indicates a respect and a desire to play around Wrath of the Skies. Is there maybe an argument for something a little bit safer? Maybe just grab like a Mishra's Bauble to replace itself?
I think at a certain degree you need to be able to actually find opportunities to chunk in for larger just hits of damage somewhere. And it strikes me as the opportunity is the place where, okay, I have to pull the trigger on this eventually. If I'm playing around Wrath of the Skies, it's hard to say if this haste is ever going to be worth more than this.
Yeah, makes sense, and Spain agrees. Lava Spur Boots is the find. Shivan Reef is the land for turn. And here's a point of pain. We're not equipping the boots just yet. There's more damage to do, and it's Thoughtcast. Spain will draw 2. And every time you're able to convert that kind of card advantage, that's something, like you say, that's more cards that are not currently vulnerable to Wrath of the Skies.
Really just trying to think about how much to deploy to the battlefield. My read is that Spain has some amount of something in the vein of an Imri or some 0 mana card, and is trying to figure out, do I want to turn on Springleaf Drum or do I just want to equip?
Definitely makes sense to consider that. Here's the attempt at an equip. It's going to be an Evoked Solitude in response for Vorel, going after the construct that was attempted to be equipped. Quick check on the count. That's going to be 4 life for Spain. And there is the Ephemerate. Apologize. The first one was 5 life. The second one is 4.
Interested in seeing what this Springleaf Drum gets used for.
Yeah, notably not tapping either construct there. Just no action. Spain will pass back.
Fair enough.
You see a fetch for Vorel as we head back his way. Has tidily cleaned up the battlefield for now.
And this is also, I will say, it is notably hard to justify developing anything else whenever you see an Ephemerate about to rebound and a Solitude on the table.
Yes. Lush Portigo is going to be fetched up. More surveilling. Vorel is going to give this one a think. Decides to keep it as we head back his way. No reason to rebound the Ephemerate with what's here. Looks like a little life total question here.
All right. Spain on 28. Vorel on 16.
Ephemerate. Exiled, as Vorel is going to draw that card that was surveilled to the top. And here is Omnath, Locus of Creation. Draw 1 card, but that's not all. Misty Rainforest, that's going to be the first landfall trigger there for Omnath. That's going to gain 4 life.
Holy. So between the Omnath and the Solitude, this is up to 23?
Yep, Solitude connects with Lifelink.
Spain down to 25.
Here is Urza's Saga as Spain tries to rebuild. Here's Thought Monitor, a big tap of 4 for Thought Monitor, so that's going to draw 2 cards. Here's a Mishra's Bauble. At this point, so there's a couple of Galvanic Blasts. That's something we've touched on a little bit in the sideboard. Do you think that Spain has those because he just needs to get a card like Omnath off the table? Does he have the ability to play through this kind of effect?
It's really tough. I would say probably does not have the ability to play through this. But so much of the game plan of these decks can actually just end up boiling down to hope to answer it on the stack with something like a Mystical Dispute.
Yeah, that makes sense. That window for Spain, unfortunately, has passed. You see an equip of the Thought Monitor, a use of the Mishra's Bauble. And Thought Monitor is just hanging back, attempting to check the Solitude, you have to guess.
I mean, there is a degree where if Andrew doesn't have something like a Wrath of the Skies, constructs can outgrow Omnath's impact, which feels a little berserk to say.
So Vorel is going to fetch down to 22 after drawing for turn. Tapped Hallowed Fountain. That's going to be 4 more life off of the Omnath.
I believe this is mana?
Oh, right, it is the second. Yeah, fetch land for turn.
All right, but another fetch means Omnath's going to do something with life.
4 damage.
4 of them. Bang.
That's going to be the Thundering Falls, surveilling once again. Going to see a lot of that this weekend. So 4 mana in the pool. Here's a 5th mana. Here's a hard cast Solitude. Looks like we're paying the 1 on the ward to get rid of that Thought Monitor. Or at least that's the intention for Vorel. Spain does have a Springleaf Drum here. There could be some action. And it is a Spider Sense. So that's going to Web Sling. This is a trick you were mentioning. Springleaf Drum can tap the monitor and then it's picked up for that card.
Yep.
But here comes some beatdowns. Omnath and Solitude are going to chunk in. That's 7 damage plus 3 life for Vorel. So it's going to be Spain to 14, Vorel to 29, I do believe.
And this is the spot where the amount of life gain that this deck is able to present just represents something that is so hard for an aggro deck to chew through, even when the games where there isn't that much removal. Like, this is a game where I guess there have been 3 Solitude triggers, which sounds like a lot, but that is just 3 removal spells, and it's the 6th turn. Otherwise, we're just seeing creatures pound for pound outweigh everything that Spain can put on the table.
And we've been talking about the Affinity deck being this kind of high synergy, high volume deck, and Vorel's been doing his job. This is kind of what you're getting at. He's answering all of the payoffs.
Yes.
So anything that could hit for significant damage, it's been cleanly taken off the battlefield. Spain here now has a second Urza Saga. The first Urza Saga is now in Chapter 2. We know about a Thought Monitor in hand. There's some ways to get some stuff going, as here is a construct added to the battlefield. It's not small. And here's Thought Monitor once again. That'll draw 2 cards. Looks like 7 artifacts on the battlefield. Here's an equip of the Lavaster Brutes.
I mean, this is what getting in this game sound like. This is what this looks like.
Definitely a start, as here is an attack for 8. Players doing some counting and double checking.
Hit for 8. Down to 21.
Down to 21. Yes, indeed. And post-combat, what else can Spain do? Here's an Emery. Nice value card. It's going to mill 4 when it enters.
Makes sense, I would say. At this point, it looks like Spain is very firmly in the you won't have Wrath of the Skies game plan.
I don't want to think about you having it.
We're past the phase where that's something that Spain can afford to play around.
I definitely agree there. Mistress Bobble takes a look at the top card of Vorel's deck. As we head back Vorel's way.
I believe it was Stock Up.
Yikes. Stock Up it is. That's a lot of looks for a Wrath of the Skies. That's going to be Force of Negation, though. Exiling a Sink into Stupor. That's a good turn for Spain there.
Okay. I mean, all of a sudden, this doesn't look that bad. Imri's able to start casting big things from the graveyard. Normally, we see Imri kind of play a more trinkety game, getting back Mishra's Baubles or Spell Bombs or something like that. There's some heat in this Affinity deck to cast.
Yeah, and as we're going back Spain's way, also just the material on the battlefield is really compounding. As you see, the first Urza Saga hit Chapter 3, makes a construct on the way out. The second Urza Saga is now at Chapter 2. Spain's going to find another artifact off of that first one.
I kind of doubt it, but there's a world where Spain brought in Shadow Spear. Aether Spellbomb, not bad. This is a way to start drawing multiple cards with Thought Monitor if there isn't one in Graveyard.
Yeah.
With the Imri loop.
Also, as you attack here, I don't know if Spain will have enough to do it this turn, but with that Emery, like, you don't want to bounce the Solitudes, but there is a world where you can get it for lethal by bouncing the Omnath.
Absolutely. I think he just counted the Emery. I mean, the Emery likely is going to count as an artifact here in a moment.
Yeah, here's an Emery activation. Mishra's Bauble, recast from the graveyard. It's like 9 and now 10 artifacts with that Mem Knight entering the battlefield.
We were doing the exact same thing. My fingers out. All right, 8, 9, 10.
The 2 constructs and the Thought Monitor chunking across. A 10-10 and 11-10 and a 2-2.
It's a working person's tutu. 23.
This forces some action from Vorel. Looks like Solitude's going to jump in front of the larger construct. Vorel's got to think about it, though.
All right, effectively takes 9 down to 12.
Math checks out. And this was a game just a few short turns ago. Vorel looked to be in a really good position. Now needs the top deck. Big turn.
Whoa, no crack of the bauble.
Misty Rainforest for Vorel.
That represents 8 life.
Yeah, you can fetch on the opponent's turn, exactly. Get that first trigger on Omnath for both players. Now Spain's using that bauble because it's the end of Vorel's turn.
All right. Another construct.
The math at this point just kind of shakes out where any 2 constructs are lethal. It gets a little bit easier with the numbers where they're at.
Maybe?
Well,
So,
there's
wait,
some life. There's some life
right,
on the way here.
right,
That's a
it's
good
weird.
point.
We have life gain from Solitude. We have life from Omnath.
We're also getting another construct here that Urza Saga is going to find
Totally,
another artifact.
totally.
The math's getting like it looks kind of complicated, but it's maybe it's not simple. I'll give you that.
Don't accuse me of doing this math. We have far surpassed the capacity of my fingers.
Now, this is actually, you know, the kind of the spot where just understanding something is about half of something gets you a lot of the way there.
Yes. Yeah. Right. You get into weird. I think I have to attack with a bunch of different things. Okay. No, this is just Thought Monitor. Midnight's staying home. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so this is 26 coming across with a possible 6 life to gain when you factor the life loss from the Misty, then the gain 4 from the Omnath. Oh, you can't actually gain the life because either Spellbomb bounces it with the fetch on the stack.
Ooh, yeah, get that Omnath out of there.
And that's the hand! What?
Taylor Spain is going to pick that one up convincingly.
And that is exactly what we were talking about getting Omnath off the table. Right, the plan is not to actually kill an Omnath. It's to say, okay, if I can check Wrath of the Skies, I can do more